Just as the live countdown started, Professor Salem pushed something, and we lost his video. Give me 1 second, guys. I can get him back.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're back.
Okay. I was trying to use this, but in order for me to do this, I need to make this smaller. Let me see if I can. One more time. Let me try one more time. Okay. All right. I'll do without.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you fine without. As long as you can hear me too. Yeah, see, you have all the fancy technology. You got the iPad, you got those funny. See, I stay old school. No iPad, a wired headphones and what have you. Which I think this might be an interesting place to start, because you are a guy who you have feet in both the new world and the old world, don't you?
Yeah, you can say that.
Right?
You can say that, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who are joining us, this is episode number 184 of the Jeet Kune Dialogues with Professor Salem Assli. This is really just part two of a conversation that we started having 3 weeks ago. And tell us how you're doing in your recovery from your horrific accident.
Right now, I'm experiencing a little bit the frustrating part of it, because the healing of the everything that's been sewed, it's healed. The thing is, flap is still thick, and my next appointment is at the end of the month, and then they're going to decide which date for the surgery. So right now, I cannot do physically. I cannot do too much, really, because I cannot put any weight on my right leg yet. I'm using the crutches. Since I had the clavicle that has been separated that few years back.
Right.
I was waiting for the time to also to fix that, but it didn't bother me, and I waited. And because I crashed on my right side, and many of my ribs were broken and cracked, it didn't help the clavicle. And now my clavicle is pointing, and I don't know if you can see, but there's a big bump. Like this happened since 2 days ago. I know what it is. It's not a big deal, except that when I sleep, it's a little bit inconvenient. And when I try to use the crutches, or I try to push on my right hand, on my right arms, I feel some pain. Other than that, I don't feel any pain. So the surgeon told me that in any case, let's fix the leg first, and then we're going to go for the shoulder. To fix the shoulder, since I have to wait for the leg, but they say, no, let's not do too fast,
Right.
One thing at a time. So I have to fix my leg, and once it's done, I'm going to fix my shoulder. But I've been doing this for many years, and no problem. But now after the accident, I think it's time to fix it. So
okay,
I know late.
Nice. All right. So I wanted to know. Okay, let's do this, because I was going through my notes again from the last time. Do you have any idea how many videos you have produced?
I mean, it's not me who have produced them, except 4 of them in France. I did.
Okay.
I did 10 videos for Panther.
Right.
I did 10 videos for Panther. I did 2 DVDs for Japan in Tokyo. Those are very nice. They're long, like an hour and 20 minutes, 1.5. They're long, but they did a very good job to put together the work we did, and so I'm pretty proud of those DVDs. Then make 3 more later on in the US. 3 more on Savate, And in France, I did the two on Cali, one on Junfan kickboxing and one on Junfan trapping. That was my early days, my early DVDs.
Yeah.
But they still appreciated it. So
Well, this is okay. So I wanted to find that out, because this is the thing. The Panther series, that was done in what, the 1980s or something, wasn't it?
yeah, yep,
Right.
yep.
Okay.
88. No,
But
wait a minute. It was even done before 1987.
okay. Right. Well, here's the thing. Those videos still withstand the passage of time. I mean, they're still phenomenal, even if it's somebody's first look at box française. They still can benefit greatly from them. So again, I find, see, this is what I find so intriguing about you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're at the same time a modern guy, but then there's so much to you that is like, you appreciate things of the past, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
and you are world renowned for an art which is so historic, you know, which goes so far back into the past, and what have you. um how do you maintain that balance and that equilibrium between those different eras?
Well, um,
Oh, and by the way, our good friend Neil Collins says hello.
oh, great. Thank you. Hi, Neil. Um, I consider myself a man of the excuse me, of the 21st century.
Mhm.
Means I don't live in the past. I live in the present, and I look forward to the future. However, for some reason, I have a passion for historical things.
Yeah.
Good things, because you have historical things and historical things. I'm talking about things that, for me, things that matter, you know. And so I don't find this indissociable, the fact that I'm a modern person. You know, JKD is supposed to be open-minded, you know, and always look for the new technology, and the fact that I teach also Savate, which is a very old system that dates back at least 200 years, 250 years,
Mhm.
and which can be traced back way, very, very far back in time, but that's another story. So it's not indissociable. It's just that it happens to be, it happens that way. But I'm a modern person, definitely a modern person, and but you can look in the past things that's going to make you appreciate the present and the future. You can find things in the past that can make you appreciate the present and the future. For me, again, I told you last time, for me, reading the history of Savate, of French boxing, when I read the history, even though there was some few inaccurate things, but overall it was very well written.
Yeah.
That's what makes me want to be part of it. That's what makes me want to learn the art, teach the art, not only the art, but also the history behind it. Because if for me, it was a click, you know,
Mhm.
could be the same for other people, you know. And this is, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's not only with martial arts, but everything in my life. It's like this, you know. So as we're probably going to discuss, I'm sure later, but there are things in the past that were fabulous, you know.
Yeah.
And that make you appreciate the present and look forward for the future.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So this took a little bit of doing, but I have a surprise guest here who wanted to come on and say hello to you.
Okay.
All right, Nick, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Can you see us?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Assli, Nick Cavallino wanted to say hello.
Hello,
Oh,
Professor.
hi, Nick.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
How you feeling? Everything good?
Yes, everything is good, and as I was saying, just frustrated that I cannot bounce around like I usually do, but I have to be patient. And other than that, everything is great. You know, I have objectives, I have focus, and so that's what I'm doing right now. You know me. You know, when I start something, when I'm in something, I go all the way. So.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
we have Nick. Nick has been putting stuff out on since we can't see you moving around. Nick has been putting stuff out on Facebook, and he's doing quite a good job of representing Box Française with the stuff that he does. Of course, he's not as good as I was when I met you. I'm just kidding. But Nick, you and I have talked a little bit about Professor Salem's influence on you. Can you expand on that a little bit? Don't embarrass him, but just
Yeah. Well, it's going to be hard because I tell everybody that first of all, the funnest seminars, I always tell everybody, I love them all, but Professor Salem's is always the funnest. And it's the material that you get in that seminar, you come away from it, your game grows exponentially so much further than it was when you started the seminar. And it's interesting because I learned a lot from that guy. He's a very interesting person. The first time I went to a seminar with Professor Salem, I'd never seen him before. I never knew too much about him. So when I met him, he was really, really nice and everything. But I remember the seminar was really long and it was really physically taxing. And that's what I liked about it. I really liked it. And there was a period where they said, okay, we're going to spar now. I said, oh, okay, cool. And then he's like, but I'm going to spar with you guys. And I was like, oh, wow, that's going to be cool to see. But then, like, when we did the round robin, it came my turn to spar with Professor Salem. And I'm a young guy. I'm scared to death. Because I'm like, man, this is the professor. He's just awesome. What am I going to do? So when we sparred, I remember I tell all my students this story. He had these colorful gloves, like they're like blue and yellow and they're really colorful. They were like really like hypnotizing almost. Sparring, he says, hey, don't look at my gloves. Don't look at my gloves. So we kept sparring. He kept tagging me. Bop, bop, bop. He said, don't look at my gloves. I said, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then he did this thing where he went one glove, went there, and he hit me again. Boom. I said, my God. He's like, I told you, don't look at my gloves. So, and there was another part in I think it was one of the rounds that we did. He trapped my arm with his foot. He trapped my arm because I had a lazy guard. I was like this, and he had that easy access to the trap, but he did it with his foot, and then he punched me in the head. And nobody had ever done that to me before. I'd never seen anybody do that. So, and then I see him teaching this in the seminar like a couple of years later. I'm like, yeah, that's the one he popped me with. It was perfect. But yeah, every time I went to a seminar with Professor Salem, the information that you get from the seminar, and I really love when he talks about the history, because the history of each martial art that we train, I love why they did it this way, where it comes from, and just the roots and everything, and just the historical stories of this particular art. It has such a rich history, and I fell in love with it immediately, and I have become obsessed with it ever since my first seminar.
Yeah.
I said, this is the art that fits my movement the most. I love Muay Thai, and I love the art of Muay Thai, and I train it very, very hard as well. But with French boxing and Savate, it's such a more personal thing for me, and I love the way that he teaches it. And I tell everybody, I'm not trying to embarrass him, but by far, there's nobody better in the world of Savate, French boxing. There's nobody better than Professor Salem. Nobody even comes close.
All right, man. All right. Well, listen, we appreciate your taking the time and coming on.
Yes,
He's
sir.
not too embarrassed. I feel the same way about him too.
That's kind of Nick to say that, but there are some very good people that I look up to. Um, and sometimes people, it happens that people confuse me with them too when they see their video. It was me, especially with the long hair, But somebody saw Penacchio, for instance, and somebody say, "Oh, I saw a video of you, a video of me." I said, "I doubt it because I don't have too many things online at that time." And and he sent me the link. I watched. I was Penacchio. He was doing a demo with Farina, which was my favorite French boxer, Savate, and effectively, Penacchio, from a distance, he looks a little bit like me, and they move in a similar way that I move, and so they confused me with Penacchio. I said, "Well, that's very kind." I was happy, but uh, they are everyone has somebody as a can offer somebody something. It doesn't matter. Even the most clumsy person can teach you something. So you can learn from anyone. Myself, I am me. I teach my way. Uh, but I look at the people. Usually, what I do is I look at the people. I look at the crowd. I look at the level, and usually I adapt the teaching to the level. And only to the end, usually I saw a bit more fancy things so they can see that they can do more than just what we did during the seminar. And also it gives the incentive for those who are technically more advanced to look forward to more, But you know, everyone can teach you something, and you can learn from everybody. That's for sure. I know. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be martial arts. Anything. You can take a bump on the streets, go to him, talk to him, and you will learn something that you didn't know.
All right.
And everything
Okay.
you learn will make you grow.
Yeah. All right. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. We'll talk again soon. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. My pleasure.
Bye.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. So I thought
That's
that
what
would be kind of cool.
intervene, not interfere, but intervene in.
Yeah. So something that you just talked about, and Nick actually made me think of it too when he said that, learning about the history of it and what have you. When he said that, I had images of Sifu Inasano, who does the same thing. So I wanted to ask you, your seminar teaching style, has it been influenced by Sifu Dan?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. When you spend so many years with someone, he has to rub something on you. It's impossible all the way.
Right.
His way of teaching is it's a little bit similar to mine, but we are different. But it's similar because, in a sense that it's relaxed. It's a relaxed atmosphere,
Right. Yeah.
I don't like austerity, I don't like austerity, but at the same time, Dwight, I appreciate the Japanese style sometimes of like in the real Bushido, when they do the meditation, which I teach. I used to sometimes teach some meditation, not teach, but my students do a few minutes of meditation after the end of the class, especially when it was gruesome. I make them cool off, and I make them breathe, and I make them, forget about their own body,
Right.
So they don't leave the place after training totally hyper and excited. They a little bit back to with their feet on the ground.
Okay.
But
all right, let me interrupt you again. I'm gonna try to do something again. Can you see this guy?
No, I don't see
You
anything.
don't see anything?
It's like last time, actually, basically.
Ah,
No.
okay. Well, if he says something, you'll probably recognize who it is.
Hello there, brother.
That's Neil.
How are you feeling today, Salem?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Hopeful.
Good.
All right. So
How about you?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Neil?
I can.
Okay. All right. So did we meet
But I
Salem
want
at the same time, Neil?
Right.
Yes,
Right,
at
if you don't
the camp from Dan Tinlerman.
Okay.
You might have met him before me. Did you meet him before then?
I don't think so. I mean, this was 85. Do you remember?
It was either 85 or 86. I think
Okay.
86.
Okay. All right. And you guys went on to become, I mean, very, very good friends, right?
Yes.
So maybe you can, Nick, when Nick came on, Nick had nice things to say about him and didn't embarrass him. Maybe you could try.
To embarrass him?
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Oh, you can.
No, but just
problem.
tell us what.
He will have funny story to tell, though. So he's dying to tell them, but he's going to refrain.
We'll do my best.
Right. But tell us what how he has influenced you and curriculum stuff, martial art wise, that kind of thing.
Well, if I remember correctly, when we first met him, we tested together that
Yeah.
seminar.
Yeah.
And I think we both got red gloves together at the same time.
No, I got white.
You got white?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
you had the legs,
That's it. I was skinny, remember?
but I could spar.
But you could fight, right?
That's right. I do remember that. And from that, I will have to say, from that point on, the professor has been a great influence as a friend, as a mentor in the beginning, as definitely a great trainer of his method of the kickboxing. And he influenced not only myself, I'm sure you as well, but many of my students, because I used to have him come every year, at least twice a year, which most of those I have on video.
Oh, nice.
With the testing and everything over the years, through the end of the 80s into the 90s. And it's always been a great experience to train under the professor.
All right. Well, we're not going to have you stay on because then he might embarrass you, and we can't.
I bet he would. I'm glad to say hello to both of you, my brothers,
Right.
and I'm hoping everything is going well.
Yeah.
And especially you as well, Dwight.
Yeah, I should see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because Glenn and I want to come back up and hang out with you guys.
Absolutely. That'll be
All right.
great.
Okay. Cool.
And Professor, I'm sure we'll talk throughout the next few weeks. So feel good, and it was a pleasure seeing both of you.
All right, man. You take it easy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, that's the last one. I don't have anybody else to pull up on you, right?
Okay, come on.
Yeah, I was gonna see if I could get a hold of, but I ran out of time. Sule Welch, because I know that you've been a big influence on him. I wasn't gonna try to get these guys, but I know also the guys at New Breed in New York. They are big fans of yours. Also, Andy Wilson at MKG Seattle. He's another really big fan of yours.
In you're talking, you say New Breed, right? Luigi and Alex.
Luigi and Alex, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, they have big Savate
Yeah.
group there.
What is it about about the art, you think that people gravitate towards it? You think there's a unique aspect to it? What do you think it might be?
Right. If you do JKD, or if you claim you're doing JKD, if you don't practice Savate, then you are missing a big chunk of it. Because if you know how to do Savate, if you take a good level Savateur from France, teaching trapping, teaching takedown and the ground walk, he's already in the JKD frame. Just the system already. You remember I wrote an article on Black Belt 2015, I think, 16, forget, about the connection between JKD and Savate. I don't know if you read this article, but
yeah,
it's very clear. If you look at Bruce Lee JKD, lots of it, it's like French boxing. The 5 ways of attack, they were in Savate. They are in Savate, at least the 4 ways. The 5th way, the trapping, it's in Savate street fighting. You can grab legs and throw. You can grab the arms, take down. You have some type of trapping grappling in the old style of Savate.
Mm-hmm.
But all the 5 ways of attacks, they are in JKD, not just in fencing and boxing. I mean, in JKD, I mean in French boxing, in Savate, in kickboxing, French style, you have the 5 ways of attacks. You have them.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So the notions of distance, the footwork, Bruce Lee is teaching a footwork, right? We teach the students certain types of footwork. But how many people can apply it? Very few. Because if you don't practice French boxing and the déplacement, the footwork and everything, you're missing it. Because this is it. What Bruce Lee is teaching, it's in the French style of foot fighting. Look at the French fighter, the way they move. You know, this is a footwork, step and slide, push shuffle, quarter turns, everything. Mm-hmm. You have them and it's applied because right off the bat, they teach it to you right away. You know, we want the students to understand the footwork, the déplacement. And I teach and I practice Muay Thai. You know, I'm also doing Muay Thai. My Muay Thai style, when I spot Muay Thai, I don't stand still. I move. I look like Muay Thai when I look Muay Thai. I put the shot. I look Muay Thai 100%, but I use the footwork of French boxing because I don't want to stay here and just receive the blow. I don't want to exchange blows.
Right.
My idea is I give it to you. You don't give me nothing back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested to exchange. Mm-hmm. I give it to you. You don't. In JKD, it's like this. We don't exchange blows. In JKD, we try not to exchange blows, of course. To be able to do that 100%, you have to be extremely good. We have to be like the caliber of Bruce. But some people can pull it off. They receive very little, if any, because they understand the footwork, they understand the distance and the timing.
Yeah.
And this is a big emphasis straight off the bat in French boxing, in Savate. We teach this to you. I say French boxing and Savate and everything. For a very long time, again, the French, the International Federation, they called it Boxe Française Savate. You have to understand why. It's because in the 70s, there was a schism, a scission between those who wanted to practice La Savate, self-defense, the real thing, and those who wanted to practice La Boxe Française, the ring sports, for competition and stuff like that, because there were some restrictions, of course. So that was a big session, and almost 2 federations was almost created. Finally, they find a compromise because they wanted to develop and they wanted to stay together because they were not millions. So they wanted to keep everyone together. Therefore, they call it Boxe Française Savate. So it pleased both camps.
Right.
And they authorized certain kicks that was not allowed before, and they added and they became more and more pleasant also for the Savateur. Later on, they create another things called Savate defense, which is they try to remember a lot of things from the past, put it, bring it back together with, And even now, some of the things they find good in some system, they even put it there, you know. But La Savate, as a street fighting system, is very, very personal, you know. So your Savate will definitely be not like mine. And even French boxers, when they are in the ring, they all know the same kicks, the same punches, but they look totally different. You know, they can look totally different. So everybody has his own personality, and they can develop the system that fits them, that makes them grow. So there are a lot of JKD concepts and principles in the art of Savate, you know. And the French boxer have known that for a long time, that if you want to be complete, you cannot be doing only one thing. I should have put it up, but I have a book from 1920, and the guy talked like that very clearly. He said, if you're going to cross the Sahara Desert, you don't want to have a canoe, or you don't want to have a bicycle. You need a camel, or you need a car, a jeep. I mean, it doesn't say jeep, but you need a vehicle, you know, like a motorized vehicle, or you need a camel, but you're surely not going to use a canoe, and you're not going to use a bicycle. You need something that can allow you to do that. If you want to cross a river, you say you need a canoe, you need a boat, you need a raft, but you're not going to use a car, you're not going to use a bicycle either, you know? So he said you have to use the proper tool for the proper occasion. Therefore, he said combat system, they don't know the word martial arts at that time, combat system has to be complete. Therefore, a good fighter should know the distances and fight in the different ranges. So he should know kick, savate, boxing, judo, and jiu-jitsu, because that was the only system that existed and known at that time.
Yeah.
So he already wrote this in his book in 1920. So this is pure JKD concept, you know, that you have to master distance, you have to use a different combat system for different occasion. Because in the 1900, there was fight between challenges between jiu-jitsu, who just came to do a show in a Paris exposition in early 1900, and the Japanese came and they showed jiu-jitsu, and the French people get crazy about it because it was so exotic, and they got into jiu-jitsu. Some became very good at it. Some challenged the French boxer. The French boxer of 1900 is not the French boxer of 2020. You know? It's a different level. However, at that time, it was the best that they could offer. So some French boxer, you know, they challenge the jiu-jitsu or get challenged by a jiu-jitsu man, Frenchman, not Japanese, and he lost. He lost the fight miserably. After a few seconds, boom, he can take down, poof, straight on bar. I have the pictures. So everybody goes, wow, jiu-jitsu. Wow, and they really get crazy about jiu-jitsu. Until some sabateurs, they look and they say, wow, you know, those techniques, we have them already in the medieval time. We already had book printed showing all this type of maneuver, you know, and they just make it popular again. But we knew that. We kind of lost them because we don't use this in our days and age. We don't use that. We use gun, we use swords, cane, but we don't use, we don't try to roll and throw people and stuff like that. That's what the mentality. So they fought back against the jiu-jitsu, and later on they beat the jiu-jitsu player again, and people forgot about jiu-jitsu. It's and it's happening today. It's the same thing.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
100 years later, exactly the same thing happened.
Yeah.
People are so into their stuff, they forget. Even the first JKD people here, the first JKD people were offered the opportunity to train in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, when the Gracies were teaching in their garage.
Yes.
You know, and some guys were training with them, and then he was offering some of the JKD people to train. Say, hey, would you guys roll on the mat and everything? No, we don't do that, you know, because the mentality was like, you know, striking. There were more strikers, you know, and the times has changed, but today we know that we also have to learn, some move, some groundwork. We need to have at least to have some knowledge, so you know what to expect. Now again, don't get me wrong. This is still sports. In the jiu-jitsu that you see, in the jiu-jitsu in the street fights, it will be different, because in the streets you can pinch, you can bite, you can gouge. You can do things that will make the difference between life and death, which you cannot do, of course, in competition. That's fortunately, But hey, who knows? It might come back again, because you see the other day I was watching fight with the girls, pretty face, fighting with no gloves, and at the end, their faces like this. I'm thinking, wow, why do they let pretty girls? I mean, I think their face so bashed like this. It's ridiculous. Even guys, it shouldn't be like this. They should have some kind of protection, at least,
Yeah.
I mean, we know neuron can come back, but it's better not to lose them at the first place, And that's why I like Savate, because I was very elusive, and Savate allows you to strike from a distance and give and not to receive. And this is more in the JKD mentality, because if Bruce is alive and you will ask him the question, you say, no, I give. I don't want to receive. And it's supposed to be like this,
Yeah, especially what I've heard people talk about, what they call latter stage Jeet Kune. They say that towards the end, Bruce Lee was at a level where you couldn't touch him. He could come in and hit you at will, but it was almost impossible to touch him. So that sounds to me very much like the boxe française approach. I wanted to ask you this: is this accurate? Is it accurate to say that Savate is the overall art, and then inside of Savate you have boxe française, you have la lutte, and you have le can? Is that accurate?
Not quite.
Okay.
Especially when it concerns la cane. Savate was a mother art. Savate was the foot fighting. It was done in a different ways. Sometimes it was just a game. They play tag, kicking each other's legs and everything. I touch you, don't touch me. There was stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Le jeu de la savate, the game of Savate. Then it became a sport, not a sport, a mean of self-defense, or rather say a means of attacks by the lower class of the society that wanted to defend themselves against the upper class, and sometimes attack the upper class, to rob them of their positions, And so la savate was looked at by the bourgeoisie, the middle class, and nobility as something, I would say that low. It's not a gentleman. It's the opposite, And so, but then later on, they realized that some realized the benefits of it. So they learned it, they refined it, and finally the bourgeois and the noble, those who used to look at it down, started to enjoy it and use it as a self-defense, so they could defend themselves against the same people, So la savate was the art. Later on, it was combined with English boxing, but it's not because savate didn't have hands. It's a myth that they say the savate people only eat with open hands. Yes, they do have open hand techniques for sure. In fact, the position of the savateur at the old days was having his hand down to almost to the side of his hips with the open hands, ready to slap and catch anything he could grab. He could catch a kick or a punch or whatever. So his hands were open, so he could use from the palm strikes, to the nose, to the slaps, and so on. So they have a lot of technique like this, but it's false to say that they didn't have punches. They did have punches, of course. It's a natural thing. Anybody knows that boom, close his fist and punch someone in the face. Everybody does. So of course, La Savate, they had it too. But it was not sophisticated like the prize rule fighters.
Right.
You know, the prize rule fighter, they made it an art out of it, you know. And bare knuckle fight, the French boxer, the first practitioner of La Savate, they didn't know how to handle that. So one of them get beat up, of course, as you know the story, and he lost miserably. And he decided to, instead of being despaired, he decided, okay, I'm going to learn English boxing and I'm going to put it into the foot fighting. And it became La Boxe Française. You understand? So it's a subdivision of La Savate. La Savate was the art.
Right.
That's why I always, of course, and the reason why it's called La Savate, it's called La Boxe Française and not La Savate, is because especially there are some teachers who absolutely hated to use the word La Savate because it was like a pejorative term for so many people. When they heard, oh, this guy play La Savate, oh, he definitely is a bad person. So if you want to attract clientele to your classes, you don't coin the term Savate, but you term it Boxe Française, skills, or whatever.
Right.
They put different name because they could even use the word boxing at some point. But that's why they create that name Boxe Française. So some teachers like Le Boucher, for example, Le Boucher was a street fighter. Everything has to be functional for the streets, otherwise forget about it. That was his ideas, you know. So all the low kick, kneecaps, groins, you know, that was his things, and definitely boxing, okay, and throwing, wrestling, that was his stuff. So, but no, it's out of question to coin it, to term it La Savate, because he knows that would be a turnoff for so many people at that time. Today, nobody cared. If you say, he does La Savate, oh, that's great, you know. But in those days, it was a bad term because only bad people use La Savate.
Yeah. Did you ever hear a similar story about Muay Thai in Thailand, that it was looked down on as a low class thing?
No, but I can see because usually those who have an easy life, they don't go into the fight, into fighting, you know. I can get anything I want. I don't need to get bashed and get money and to become a fighter and become rich, and you know. So usually it's a lower class that practice the arts, and whether it's boxing. Usually, don't get me wrong, it's not everyone, but usually it's like this. You look in poor country, boxing is a way to make money, to feed your family and stuff. It's in many South American countries like that. Today in France, the best fight, lots of the best fighters usually come from a worker class. A huge amount of them it's from working class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised that if in Thailand it was like that. I'm not surprised at all. In fact, many things in Muay Thai and Savate, it's kind of similar, you know. If you look at the fight, I've heard some comments that people have seen some very old video of French boxers from the 1920, 1930, and they laugh, you know, oh, French boxing is like style, you know, it looks could. Those guys were the best at that time.
Right.
They have to realize that they were the best at that time.
Yeah.
And you look at Muay Thai, if you look at always old fights of Muay Thai, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's not the Muay Thai of today.
Yeah.
Not the Muay Thai of today. It's totally different. In fact, if you, I had an opportunity to handle Bruce's personal notes on martial arts, and I was with the Gordon and Paula, and we were moving, and so we were moving the knot, and Guru showed me one of the book by Bruce, and he noted the plus and minus of every system. when you talk about Muay Thai, you say, oh, their hook is inexistent, their uppercut, I think, also is inexistent. This is a Muay Thai from the 50s, from the 60s,
Right.
but then it changed a lot. And you know what I think also influenced them a lot? French boxing. The French fighters has influenced a lot the Muay Thai. Why? Because in France, we have the kickboxing. We're always famous also for like Holland, also
Right.
for kickboxing.
Yeah.
So when Thai boxing came, right away there was fights between, not necessarily sponsors by their own federation, but they had been tried between French boxer and Thai boxer. French boxer quickly learned, what can I do to counter that style, and then they exchange, and that we have many world class Thai boxer in France, and of course Savate, and they exchange to each other, so they influence each other. Now today you see Muay Thai fighter, more and more you see Muay Thai fighter bouncing around, like before they never do that.
Right. Yeah.
They move forward like the old fencing style, the old Savate style was like this too. Because why did they do that? Why did they move just forward, back and forward like this? Because it comes from duo. La Savate was used for duo. When we could not use the swords, or the guns, some people use La Savate as a means to resolve a conflict.
Right.
In those days, because so influenced by the duo, everything is done in a straight line. They move forward, they move back, like they did with fencing.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that's why if you look at the very first, but the oldest clips of French boxing, they even on the ring, they go from one corner to another in a straight line. They don't move around like we do today. The footwork is completely different because it comes from fencing, from the duo, So it's like Kane. Now, like Kane is different from the old style of Kane, which was also like this. I move forward, I retreat, I move forward, I retreat. Now they move around, they jump, they bob and weave, they do all kind of things. The footwork, they brought it to another degree. Charlemont in the late 1800s, if they will see some of you guys doing French boxing, they will be in awe, because it's so different from the way they did it. They will be in awe, seeing the moving around, the spinning, the combinations, the entering in and out, and using all spaces.
Right.
They will be in awe, because it's another level. The Canistes, the French cane fighters of 1900, they would see a French canist from 2020, their jaw will drop to the floor. They will not believe what they are seeing, because again, it's another level. It's the same with Muay Thai. If the people from the 50s, they see a Muay Thai fighter from 2020, they will be in awe, because they elevate their style. It evolves.
Right.
To become better.
Relate that evolution to Jeet Kune, because I think we have a problem with some Jeet Kune groups that no, it's this, and it's this way, and Bruce Lee was at the pinnacle of his abilities, and therefore, if we do what Bruce showed us to do, that's Jeet Kune.
No, but for me, it's not to be condescending, but it's almost a waste of time to talk about people who think like this, because it's ridiculous. You cannot force something that is supposed to always evolve and move forward and become better and better. Guru Dan said, Bruce from 1969 was better from the Bruce from 1968. And in 1970, it was way better than 1969. And 71 was better than, because Bruce evolved. But he died. So we have to focus on just what he did. That's it. At that point, that's what. No. If you do this, you are totally in opposition with his philosophy and his thinking. Because for Bruce, you always have to look forward to improve, to improve yourself, to improve your knowledge, to improve your research, everything. You have to look forward. You don't get stuck at it's like scientists today. They will say, okay, we're going to stop right here. We're not going to do no more research. We're going to stop. I think we have everything we need. We're good to go. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, not at all.
Yeah.
You know, we still evolve. Which, by the way, there is an interesting anecdote. But the scientists of the late 1800s, early 1900s, they had a big convention with a bunch of scientists. I don't know where it happens, or the exact dates. But I know that they were feeling bad for the future scientists, because we have discovered pretty much everything there is to discover, and we feel bad for the future generation. There is nothing anymore to discover. If they will be alive today and you bring them right here, they will feel like total primitive. You know, they will be amazed.
Did you ever see?
We are going to the moon. We're traveling to the moon. We send satellites. We have phones. They would be out of their minds. You know. So it shows those people were like the JKD people who think that way. You know, that okay, there is nothing else to discover. Bruce has discovered everything. That's it. There is nothing else to discover. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know?
I remember reading that they said that the early days of the computer, one of these scientists says that there would never be a need for the average person to have a computer in his home. You know.
Even my mother, she's 82 and she has a computer, and we speak on Skype. She sends me emails and she shop online, and you know, so. He was wrong, you know. No, this is a paradigm. People have because you know it's in human nature to feel secure in your bubble. You have your things, and you want security. You have security, you know. And this is the same, you know. They feel secure. Oh, I have everything. I have the truth. It's this, and that's it. No, it's wrong. It's not like this. You have to think.
Yeah.
You have to be open. Otherwise, it would be sad, don't you think? There is nothing else to discover. That would be boring.
But now there seems to me to be one area of study, let's call it, where today we still have not discovered what the ancients knew, and that's in Egypt. Because my understanding is that with present day technology, we could not reproduce the Great Pyramid. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a subject that I'm totally fascinated with. Huh? You see, because I went to Egypt a few times, and I went to the Great Pyramid, and I wanted to go there for like more than 30 years, you know. But finally, I was there, and when you see it in the picture, it could be pretty awesome. You can see on TV, it could be even more awesome. But let me tell you, like, when you're in the front of it, and you look at the sheer scale of it, then you start to really question yourself, because you have a huge block of stones, you know, that they lift up all the way 100 and almost 40 meters to the top. And if you tell human today, okay, we give you just have wood, copper, and ropes when you do that. We won't be able to do that. And you know what? Even if we were able to do this, it will take us such a long time. Such a long time. Because when I looked at the pyramid from up close, and I look at the cuts, like this, of the stones, the outside of the pyramid, the outside, the case, the outside, not the casing at the end, but just the pyramid, because the casing fell down, but the pyramids made of limestone. I'm thinking, just to cut this, just to cut that already, it's already a big job. It's a huge job, and they have to be several, because if it's one person, it will take him very, very long time. But it have to be several to do one stone. Okay, they have 2.5 million, approximately 2.5 million stones to cut. They say they built this for the tomb of Cheops. Okay, the thing is, in order for them to do that for Cheops, the king, they have to do this when he's alive. They have to make his tomb when he's alive, not when he's dead, right? So they have to do it in his lifetime. So they say, it must have taken them 20 to 30 years, 20 to 30 years to do it. How do they calculate that? That means that in order to do that, between the time frame that they give, that they suppose it has been made, in order to do 2.5 million blocks of stone, they have to put a block of stones every 2 or 3 minutes. A block of stone has to be put in position. Of course, it's impossible, because already a small one, to drag it takes a lot of people.
Right.
They don't even have rollers, because they don't have any wood. The wood came from Lebanon. So how? And it's not finished. Inside, there is an entire complex with stones, blocks of stones, that some of them is 1,000 tons. The chevron that all the pyramid, they're huge, right? In the middle. So how could they have done this? How could they have bring those stones, which supposedly come from 500, 600 miles away? They have to bring those huge blocks of stones. And they have to lift them up over there. We asked experts in constructions, the top constructors, and we asked them, would you be able to do something like this? One said, if I have 100 or 200 years to do it, yes, of course. I'm sure eventually we will do it. I wouldn't, because my entire life would be spent to try to do this. And he said, with the technology we have right now, but if you just give me the tools that they had, no, it's impossible.
Yeah. Have you been to like Mexico or Central America? Have you seen pyramids there as well?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I saw the pyramid in China. As a matter of fact, I climbed a little bit, actually, the pyramid of the Emperor of China, the first Emperor of China in Xi'an. And it's covered, the Chinese government, for some reason, they cover it with the trees and everything, so it looks like a mountains. But actually, you can see from a distance, you can see that it's a pyramid. We know that's what's inside. We know that it's a treasure of the Emperor. Even supposedly a map of China, the way it used to be at that time, and the rivers inside are made of mercury. So they reproduce supposedly the river made of mercury, and they check the ground and they find a very high level of mercury around that area. So because they find some books, notes made of bamboo, piece of bamboo, and it's written, of course, in Chinese character, and it's written supposedly what the content of the pyramid is. But for some reason, the Chinese government doesn't allow to open it for a few reasons. Number one, they're afraid that if they open it, whatever colors there is inside will disappear very quickly, with it, very fast, like when the same as a soldier of the terracotta, when they took them off the ground as soon as they were very, very colorful. All of them. But as soon as they take the dirt out, the color fades after a few hours and the color goes away. So they don't have the technology yet to be able to inside and prevent that things. Number two, they think that also lots of booby traps. And number three, because as I said, they don't have the technology to do that, to examine and open it safely without damaging anything, they don't allow. And but when you fly, when I was flying over Xi'an, you could see many pyramids, So I remember I read somebody, they said, someone or somebody from the government saying, oh, there is no pyramid in China. Well, I'm going to tell you, that's true. Because when you fly, you go to China, you fly and you see some pyramids. There's no doubt about that. It's very, very triangular, perfect shape.
Yeah.
So yes, they have pyramids. And but I didn't. No, I didn't see. I plan on visiting the pyramids in Mexico as well. But there was a place that we're talking about lifting up the big stone to build the pyramids. But there are other places which is also incredible. It's like if you go to Lebanon, I haven't been there, but I have friends from there. But I've seen pictures, I've seen documentary, knew about it for a very long time. But they have blocks of stones that some of them more than 1,200 tons. 1,200 tons, and they took those stones, they cut them, like a very stretched cube, huge, huh? Mm-hmm. And you can take easily 50 people or more, holding hands along the stone. They cut the stones, they pull them a few kilometers, few miles, and put them on top of other blocks and place them to make a platform. So big, so what do so huge.
Hang on 1 second, guys. Let me see if we can get him back.
You're okay? I don't know if you can hear me.
No, you froze, and then we couldn't hear you. You're still frozen.
Okay.
I can hear. Okay, there you are. All right, you're back.
Where was I?
You were talking about the structure in Lebanon and the long stones that would take 50 people.
So you have those, So you have those huge blocks of stones, 1,200 tons, some of them even more than that, cut, dragged for a few miles, and put on top of each other like it's nothing. I mean, at the precision, it's amazing, like inside of the pyramid. So the question you ask yourself is, why do they make it so difficult? Why the ancestors that supposedly don't have any tools like we do have today,
right,
will do something so complicated? Why do they make stones smaller, much manageable, and more of them, but more manageable? Why don't they do that? It seems like it's because they had a lost technologies that we don't have. Because the Roman came afterwards, and they built columns on top of it, because when they saw that, the Romans they were amazed, because it's for them it was the work of the gods,
Mm-hmm.
Such a huge stone place like that, it was the works of the gods. So they put they built a temple, the Jupiter temple in Lebanon. You can still see a part of it today, but they only put the pillars on top,
Right.
you know, and the roof, everything. But the
Foundation.
stone, the huge stone, they are way before. We don't know who did that. We don't know. So a part of the history is missing. The technology that allows them to do that is missing, because we ask the best of the best here. How we lift this up? Or we're going to need several cranes,
Right.
facing each other, to be able to just lift it up. Just do that, okay?
Yeah.
And it looks like, okay, we cut it, okay, we drag them, we put them on top, okay, this one we put it this way, okay, oh, you know, it defied comprehension. And that is the way you feel when you're in the pyramid. When you're inside of the Grand Gallery and you look up like this and you see the way they place the stone like this. It's called encorbellement. They put the stones like this so it can support the whole structure. And it's just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Have you come to any conclusions of your own about the mysteries?
For me, it's not a mystery. The ancient scriptures, all of them, doesn't matter where they come from. That ancient text, whether it's from China, whether it's from India, whether it's from South America, whether it's word of mouth from tradition, it's always the same story. Gods came from the sky. Some gods came from the sky, you know, and gave knowledge to the human. The first.
Wait, you're breaking up again.
Broken.
Okay.
How about now?
I see you again. Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, so there must be, because all the ancient civilizations have a very similar kind of story, you know, talking about the Sumerians, for instance, you know, it's quite interesting. They talk about the gods that came, you know, and they mingled with the humans. They even have children with some of them, and they give them knowledge. They probably put in power the first ancient pharaoh, where maybe half humans and half extraterrestrials, since they come from outside the earth. And so they give knowledge to the humans to help them to build things. And then I believe then the flood occurred, and that's where we lost a lot of information. There is something is missing. We don't know what happened between this time frame. We don't know, and of course, when there was a flood, we're talking about the Earth was there was only one continent, and then there was the flood which destroyed the original continent, cracked it open, and it spread out, and it's still moving from each other every year for half an inch or something. Every year it still moves, right? Some scientists have calculated that it's still moving. It's a remaining of that terrible thing, that explosions that happened. And that may explain certain things that are not clear. Like, for instance, I told you in a museum of La Paz in Bolivia, there is a pot, that was found on the ground in the temple of the gods. The temple of the gods, when you have a statue in the middle of a man with a beard. No one has a beard over there. They don't have a beard. But the god has a big mustache and a beard, you know? I mean, it's a stylized, of course, monument, you know, stuff. But nevertheless, with the mustache and a beard, the god is represented that way. Inside of this temple, they find a vase, some kind of pot, and it's entirely written in Sumerian language.
Right.
So the thing is, and it's about 5,500 years old or something like this. They don't know exactly, but my opinion, that's personally my opinion and only mine, so I might be wrong, but I think it's highly possible that this vase traveled before the flood, when the continent was unique. People could go anywhere they wanted, and this vase was carried over there, was brought there as a gift or whatever, and they buried it with the god, and it's a Sumerian, it's in cuneiform language, so and it was found there buried, and it's now in the Museum of La Paz, and the text is readable, but it's kind of an enigma, but it's not really an enigma if you understand that the continent used to be one, and the flood had cracked. I mean, but when we the flood, actually, it's not just the water, it's more than that.
I'm glad you used that word enigma, right? Because I wanna close up with this. How did Salem Assli come to be? Because how does a guy born in Lille end up a JKD expert, a martial arts expert, with a profound interest in spiritual and historical things? That's not a movie script that anybody could write. Because those things on the surface do not go together. So have you ever thought about that, how you came to be?
Doesn't come together. Everything is linked. You will always find a link on anything. Everything is connected, no matter what. But it's not obvious. You have to look for it. But everything is connected. But me personally, why am I like this? Why do I think this way? And I know it bothers people. I'm sure some people, it bothers them, I think different. I don't think of other people. But this, I was born like this. I mean, literally, I must have been 2 or 3 maybe. And I don't know if I told that story here last time, but my father was carrying me and walk, with my mother back home after visiting some friends in Lille. And it was pitch dark because at that time, it's not like today we have commercial sign and everything. But in those days, there was none of this. So at night, only so the lampadaire, the street lights, some of them were on, but you could see the star very well. Not like today, but at that time, you look up, you can see the star very well, right? And he was talking to my mother, I suppose, but me, I was looking at the stars, and I'm thinking they are humans. They are men, people are living. Men and women are living in the stars. I was fascinated by that already at these 2 or 3 years old. I was looking, and I'm thinking, wow, there are people up there. Later on, of course, when I started to understand more the word and everything, when I heard the word extraterrestrials the very first time, I was in school. I must have been 7, 8, maybe, I don't know, something exactly. They play a school on one day of the week. We had a cinema, so they play a movie, usually a comedy and cartoons for the kids, So we had a break in that afternoon, and that was a show, an American show. Kids, they were playing in their background, and something landed on the backyard, poof, and makes smokes and everything, and the kids were hiding behind something woods, and they look, and one boy said, "What is this? It's a flying cigar." He said, "Wow, maybe it's extraterrestrials." Wow, that resonated in me like crazy. That word, it's extraterrestrial, extraterrestrials. So it resonated in me, and I always had this passion to understand the truth. People, where we come from, why are we here? the fundamental questions. People don't even ask themselves those fundamental questions anymore. But for me, it's fundamentals. You must. It's in my genes, and it's supposed to be in the genes of a lot of people to try to know the truth. Where do we come from? Really, we are intelligent. We do incredible thing. We travel in space and everything. So when I came here 40 years ago, I mean, almost 40 years, I jumped the horse, but pretty actually 38, 39 years now. When I was telling people about extraterrestrials, that people used to laugh. But today they don't laugh anymore. Right. When you talk about extraterrestrial, people listen because more and more people believe in extraterrestrials. When before they didn't, they think, no, it's not possible. Before it's not possible. But now it's possible. There is a huge shift in the way people are thinking.
Yeah.
Because we're evolving. And why? Why? Because we're about to do the same thing as they probably did to us. We are going to thinking about going to another planet. Maybe someday we will create life, and we're going to create life in this planet. And we're going to become gods for the people we have created until they become sufficiently evolved to understand what we did for them was done for us. And this is a continuity of the human species throughout the universe. Because there is one thing people must understand. The Earth is with our solar system. Our solar system, like ours, there are billions and billions of them in our galaxy alone. And galaxy like ours, there are an infinity of them in the universe, in an infinite universe. Whether it's infinitely large or the infinitely small, you know?
Yeah.
You look at an infinitely small, you know, you realize it's almost like planets and stars that turn on each other, you know, like the infinitely large, when you see the thing we can witness with the Earth, you know, turning around the sun, you know, around our galaxy. So we can understand, if we understand that the universe is infinite, if we understand that, no need to go too deep into it, you know, just understand, the universe is infinite. If you understand that, that means that something like the Earth, there's an infinite number of planets like the Earth. But it is not because we don't have the technology yet to find them or to go there that another civilization much advanced than we are, much more advanced than we are, can come here. You know, they have found a way to do it. I mean, even in the book of Genesis, you know, I'm not a Bible freak, but I like in the book of Genesis because it talks about Ezekiel, it talks about a lot of things which is very, very interesting, you know. But Ezekiel, for instance, he sees a UFO, basically. He's facing a UFO, but the poor Ezekiel, he has no vocabulary whatsoever to describe a UFO, you know. It's the same like the American Indians, when they saw the train the first time, they don't know it's called a train. They don't know the name of it. They don't know what it is. They call it the iron horse, you know, which is logical because for them to be mobile, they use a horse, and the train is moving, and he put people inside, so they call it the iron horse. Later on, they know it's called a train. It's nothing else, but that's the first word they came up with. This is American Indian. This is 200 years ago. Imagine the primitive people 5,000 years ago, like Ezekiel, is seeing a UFO, but he has no word to describe it. He called it a wheel within the wheels, and he saw this, that. He's trying to describe, the poor guy, he's trying to describe what he has seen. It's difficult. But we have the technology, and without no mysticism whatsoever, we can understand what he's trying to convey. He has seen the UFO, he has seen the thrones of Yahweh, he sees things he has no word to describe.
Yeah.
You know, because there is a gap of civilization. The extraterrestrials are much more advanced, so the human beings they created, they give them some knowledge, but little by little, you know, as they go. You know,
With that kind of expanded way of thinking, is it possible for you, when it comes to martial arts, is it possible to not be in something other than Jeet Kune Do? Because to me, the Jeet Kune Do mentality is the very expanded mentality. I personally have not seen it in other areas.
Yeah, because first of all, I discovered JKD, Bruce Lee, and the JKD, and I discovered these things simultaneously. I imagine you are 15 years old, you discover Bruce Lee with the JKD philosophy, the openness of it, and then you realize that you read other books from great authors that leads you to other things and tells you that the universe is infinite, even though at that time they didn't know the universe is basically infinite. And still today, they don't admit 100% that the universe is infinite, but they say that there are as many stars in the universe that there are grains of sand on all the beaches of the world combined. Basically, it's infinite. They just don't want to admit it yet because they still want to have an end somewhere. Yeah, but it's another story. So when I discovered these two things together, it was like, wow, it was overwhelming, it was overwhelming, positive way for me. So I embraced the JKD philosophy, and Bruce. It was easy for me to understand what what he tried to convey, and for Bruce. Bruce was atheist. He was atheist because he come from number one. He come from Hong Kong, which used to be China, and he's more into Zen and Buddhism than he would be to the Christianity, and he believed that. When we asked him, do you believe in God? He said, no, I don't believe in God. He said, I believe in men. And I find this interesting because me has always been like this. I always think men. And whether you're men or extraterrestrials, they are still men. The extraterrestrials are humans, they are humans too. They created life to their own image. So they also are human, men and women. And it's men and women that can make your life beautiful or miserable, and we have that choice. And those extraterrestrials, they created us out of love because it's a continuity of the human species throughout the universe. And someday we will do the same thing. We will be creating life in other planets if we don't destroy. This is what's going to happen in the future. It's no other way around. There are companies that clones. This is just the beginning, but they will be able to create life out of enough matter thanks to genetic engineering and the mastery of DNA. They will be able to create life, and we will create and export that life to other planets, and so on. And this will always be the way to preserve life throughout the universe.
Yeah. So your study, to conclude, your study of Jeet Kune Do, your appreciation for Jeet Kune Do is an extension and a complement to an overall way of thinking, an overall way of being. Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, because the philosophy of JKD is to, when you have to study Bruce a little bit also. Bruce is human. totally human. He's not a god. He's a human being. He's got flaws, and he's got qualities, and he's got some flaws like every human being.
Mhm.
Everyone. There's no human being perfect. There's nothing. Nobody can reach perfection. It's impossible. You can try to get close to it as much as possible. You will never reach perfection.
Right.
Because you can always make it a bit perfect. So this is also that can go to. But when you study Bruce a little bit, you realize you look at it and you realize that he's got some life. It's not like he didn't have to have a lot of tattoo everywhere, to be overbuilt, and macho to say, okay, I'm a man, and I can kick ass, If you look at Bruce, he was always classy, dressed up very well, he was refined, he got class even in his writings, everything. So, and women loved him because he understand women. You understand? He also understand, as I tell you, his first students were women first. It's not very well known. His first students were women because he thought that women were more loyal, than men. So I remember Guru telling us that his first students were women. I'm not surprised. And so he's got refinement, maybe even a little bit of femininity, in the way he dressed up well and everything. And of course, I don't know him personally, but I can see that through his son. Brandon was like that too. Brandon was refined. He got class. He speaks well. He's funny. He's got a lot of. They had a lot of quality that I like, and I absolutely not hate, but don't care for macho stuff. I don't like it at all. It's ugly. To me, it's ugly. To be huge, it's full of testosterone and fighting and blood and stuff.
Yeah.
Almost everyone that's 5'6", 5'7", and what I'm saying, not obviously 5'10" or even 6 feet, and and become big and muscular, and can beat other guys. It doesn't go. It's not a proof of refinement, of femininity, of love for your fellow human beings, and all kind of things. Because we're living in a society when it's all about the competitions, and but it's not about compassion. It's not about love. It's not about helping. It's me, my place, my country, my family, my this, and screw the others. This is the way our politicians are directing us, whether that's in France or here. It's the same. It's the same way. But we have to detach ourselves from this and think beyond that. We have to help each other. We have to have compassion for others. If we had compassion for the Germans after the First World War, a little bit compassion, maybe we will not have the Second World War. But we were so arrogant. The French were so arrogant, and so they looked down on the Germans so bad after the war, because I understand they were angry and everything. But if they had consciousness, their behavior would have been totally different. They would have acted with compassion. Okay, you lost the war. We're all gonna help each other to rebuild. We're gonna help each other, and we're gonna shake hands. We're gonna make peace forever, and we help each other. We're not gonna strangle, to squeeze you for everything you got. By doing this, we created Adolf Hitler, and we created another war that could maybe possibly be prevented. But we were so arrogant and so out of compassion that we created this, So now, fortunately, we're living in a time with internet, with when we can share information, we can look for other informations. Our information doesn't have to come necessarily for this country, but it could come from other country. Try to see what the other people think. But when you travel, and you see that people live exactly the way you are, they just want to be happy. They just want to have a job so they can feed their family and be happy. They don't want war. Nobody wants war. It's only politicians and news corporation wants war. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
All
right. Okay. So
they don't want happy. No money.
All right, I'm gonna let's wrap it up there. Give your internet a chance to fix itself, because you're breaking up again. So when are you scheduled to have your next operation?
Well, my
I think
appointment
it was in a few.
it's my next operation should be in August.
Okay. All right. How about we check in with you again back then, around that
Sure,
time,
of
and
course.
maybe do this again?
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
Okay. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Right. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening. And some of my ideas and stuff might disturb some of them. If they do, I'm not sorry. But I am hoping that I'm saying this in a lovely way. I'm hoping that before people judge me, they try to know me, because the problem is that some people judge me and say things about me, but they don't know me. They don't know me. If they know me, really know me, they are not like that. They love me for the way I am. They love me because I'm different, and we should love differences. Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you, sir. It's a message that people should well heed. All right, you take care.
You too.